welcome to March for Heroes, brought to you by True North Productions. I'm Ashley. Have you ever walked away from a simple conversation and felt inspired? Has someone as unlikely as your neighbor become your own personal hero? Today you're going to hear Chris speak with George Willis, known locally as Papa George. He owns a small business called Chicago Street Eats. Stay tuned at the end of our episode to hear a special word from Chris. And don't forget to like and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at TNPKY. Thanks for listening.
Hey everybody, it's Chris Gatros. Just want to welcome you guys to another episode of March for Heroes. We are here today with George Willis, also known as Papa George. Hello. Papa George, what exactly do you do for the community?
You know what, I think it's more of what the community does for me, man. It keeps me on level ground. It keeps me in tune with the people, the real people of the community. What do I do for the community? Oh, I don't know. I just exist in it.
All right. And what exactly do you do for a living?
Well, right now, actually, I thought I was retired. That was the whole plan, but I came down here in 2013. I retired early from the restaurant business back in Chicago. And my wife asked me when we moved down, and she said, well, baby, what are you going to do, when we get to Kentucky? And I told her I'm going to sit on the porch and sip bourbon like everybody else. She said, yeah, that's going to last for about a good month. And she was right. About a month or so after we moved down here, a truck pulled up in front of the house, and my wife had bought me a hot dog cart. From the hot dog cart, I've evolved to where I am today. So retirement, that just sort of went out the window.
So what did you do that you retired from?
Well, originally, I was in the restaurant business back home. I've been in restaurants or hospitality for, more than 35 years. I was a corporate trainer for some major groups. The Hardin Group, they own the Red Lobsters and the Olive Gardens. I was a corporate trainer for P.F. Chang's when they first came out. I used to run bars for the Intercontinental Hotels. And my last stint was I helped open the Park Grill restaurant in Chicago. And I was there from, 04 up until 2013.
Was it pretty hard opening up the Park Grill up there in Chicago?
Yes, because the restaurant industry in Chicago is very, very competitive. And we were actually on the wrong side of the street back in those days. The park was still under construction, and there were these huge mounds of construction dirt that actually hid the restaurant. And we were wondering, had we made a good move? But here we are so many years later. The restaurant sits actually under the Silver Beam in Chicago. So it was a good move.
So the name of your company is Chicago Street Eats.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it called Chicago Street Eats?
Well, that's basically what I base my menu on. The street eats that I grew up with. Chicago street food has a real long tradition. Back in the day, the street food actually fed the workers of Chicago. It was cheap, it was filling, it was good. And that's what I strive for. So Chicago Street Eats, that's just a nod to my Chicago heritage.
And I know I see you or hear about you every single time I turn around in Hardin County.
Mm-hmm.
So what all are you helping out with charity wise? Or are there any charities that you're helping out with?
Yeah, I'm always open to helping out community organizations. I do a lot of work with veterans groups. In fact, I'm one of the local ambassadors for a group called Mission 22. Mission 22 is a national organization dedicated to bringing awareness to the sad fact that 22 or more veterans commit suicide every day. I'm very, very much involved with that. I've helped church groups. Here in another week or so, I think it is, there's an organization called Lead the Break. It's a basketball camp for kids here in Radcliffe. I'm going to donate hot dogs for that event.
Okay. And you brought up Mission 22.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any background to why you would want to join something like that? Or is it just something that you feel like is your patriotic duty?
Maybe a combination of all of those things. I'm a veteran, and I understand some of the struggles, the trials, if you will, that a lot of veterans go through, especially when they come home. I am very, very much into helping my fellow veterans. People who have never been in certain situations have no idea They have no idea what's going on.
So the people that haven't been in those situations, what is a way that they can help out with just different veterans in the area?
Well, learning more about what's going on. In fact, if they go to mission22.com, some of their questions might be answered there. It's the website itself is a storehouse of good information. They can learn things like what is a traumatic brain injury, what exactly is PTSD, how does it affect people, because it affects everybody differently, contrary to popular belief.
Backtracking to when you said that you just came here from Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
what made you want to move from Chicago to a place in Hardin County, Kentucky?
You know what? My wife's parents moved down here about 20 years ago or so. So we'd always, made trips down here, and we liked the area. When my wife and I both retired early, we didn't want to stay in Chicago. We had played around with the idea of moving to New Orleans or to Atlanta. And then we was like, you know what? Both those cities are too much like Chicago. I mean, we might as well stay here. And then we both sort of thought about it at the same time. Wait a minute. Let's just move to Radcliffe. And we like it here. It's this beautiful community.
What gives you the drive to serve the community?
That's something that I think was instilled in me when I was young. My mother actually opened one of the first food pantries back in Chicago, back in the late 60s, early 70s. So I've always had influences, if you will, community-inspired influences. My dad used to teach community classes, for gangbangers who had dropped out of school. My dad would teach them in the evenings, and they didn't have. I don't think they had a GED program back then, but they had some sort of program where these guys could get their high school diplomas.
Hey, we saw not too long ago that you were trying to hire somebody with a felony.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you want to do that?
Well, I think people who have felonies, they get a really, really raw deal. I mean, you know what? Yeah, they committed a crime. We all know that. They've done their time for that crime. They paid their dues back to society, and yet they're still stigmatized. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's fair. These people have acknowledged their mistakes, and they paid for those mistakes. So why do we keep punishing them for them?
If you were to say something to other companies about trying to hire felons, what would you say to them?
I would say that they're missing out on some awesome talent, man. A lot of awesome talent that they don't even tap into. A lot of folks, they go to the prison systems and they actually learn a trade, they learn a skill, and they're actually very good at that skill. And just to judge them because they have a prison record, I think that's crazy. That's really crazy.
We're just curious. Do you think to yourself that you would be a hero?
No, man, I'm not a hero.
No?
No, by no means.
Why not? And how would you describe a hero?
Well, you know what? I don't consider myself a hero, man. I'm just like everybody else. But what is a hero to me? Someone who's self-sacrificing, someone who doesn't judge anyone else, someone who has an open heart, who's willing to listen to other people and not judge them.
Did you have any heroes growing up?
Yeah, I did. My parents and my grandparents. Those were my heroes.
What type of influences did they have on you?
Well, my parents stressed education. They really did. In fact, even though I was a knucklehead at times and I ran with some of the wrong crowd, I always made it to school. My dad insisted on that. My mother insisted on that. My grandparents instilled in me the ability to love others. My mother and father did that as well, but I think my grandparents were most influential in me accepting people as they are.
We know that you don't see yourself as a hero, but if somebody were to look up to you and ask you how they could change the community, how they could make a difference, what would you say to them?
So just become involved. And there's so many ways to do that. There are so many opportunities, if you will. One thing that I think folks could do is just get in touch with City Hall. City Hall has inroads into a lot of different organizations. Look around you. There's veterans groups, man. There are children's groups. There's a lot of opportunity here.
Hey guys, this is Chris. I just really want to say thank you for listening to our second episode of March for Heroes, and I really want to give a big shout out to Papa George for being part of our series. You really helped me through a whole lot in life, and you inspired me in so many different ways. I'm truly honored to call you one of my heroes. Don't forget to like and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at TMPKY.